300 brand-new stealth jets, paraded as China's answer to the F-22, now span every corner of the country, on paper a force to rival the world's best. But behind headlines of mighty dragons, nagging flaws threaten to turn the J-20 into a high-tech gamble. Questionable engines, stealth gaps, unproven software, no gun, and zero combat experience. If this is the symbol of a new era, what did China sacrifice under pressure to get here? And can these jets really survive the war they were born to fight? In the late 1990s, a single directive from the top of the Chinese Communist Party set a new course for the country's military ambitions: build a stealth fighter that could stand toe-to-toe with America's best. Yang Wei, the engineer chosen to lead Project 718, carried the weight of that order every day. His reputation was already cemented after the J-10, but this new assignment carried far greater risk. Past program leaders who failed to deliver on time or on budget had vanished from public view, demoted, sidelined, or worse. Failure was not just a professional setback, it was a political liability. Yang's challenge was enormous. The team faced a blank slate. China had never fielded a jet with true radar-evading design, let alone one that could match the F-22's blend of stealth, speed, and sensors. The research and development group scrambled to master concepts that felt alien, shaping airframes to deflect radar, building internal weapon bays, blending advanced composites, and designing a cockpit to fuse data from a new generation of sensors. Meanwhile, the clock was always ticking. Party officials demanded visible progress, not just technical reports. Factory quotas were set before the first prototype even left the drawing board. Every milestone was publicized, every delay scrutinized. The pressure reached its peak on January 11, 2011. The J-20's maiden flight was scheduled with Central Party leaders and military brass watching from the tarmac in Chengdu. The symbolism was unmistakable. This was not just a test flight, it was a declaration of technological intent, broadcast to signal China's arrival on the world stage. Yang Wei later described the moment as a knife edge, admitting the team often had no idea if a given day would end in triumph or disaster. Every bolt, every weld, every line of code was a bet placed under the unblinking gaze of the state. That first flight succeeded, but not without tension. Years of trial and error, and the fear of repeating past failures, had shaped every decision. Urgency forced compromises, some visible, some hidden deep within the jet's skin. The J-20 would go on to become a symbol of national pride, but its birth was anything but inevitable. It was forged in a crucible of political demand and technical uncertainty, with Yang Wei and his team gambling their futures on a single flawless takeoff. By late 2025, the People's Liberation Army Air Force had achieved a milestone no other country besides the United States could claim: more than 300 operational J-20 stealth fighters, distributed across every theater command in China. The numbers alone are staggering. At least a dozen brigades field J-20s, each brigade typically controlling 2 to 3 squadrons, and new units continue to stand up at a pace that outstrips most Western predictions. This fleet isn't concentrated in a single region. It stretches from the Northern Theater, facing the Korean Peninsula, to the Western Theater near the Himalayas, and down along the East and South China Sea coasts, where tensions with Taiwan and US allies run highest. Deployment patterns reveal Beijing's priorities. Brigades stationed near the East China Sea are tasked with regular air defense identification zone patrols, while those in the South China Sea stand ready for rapid response missions over contested waters. J-20s routinely operate from bases like Wuhu, Anqing, and Dingxin, their presence a constant reminder to regional rivals and US planners alike. These are not ceremonial squadrons. They are on active alert, drilled in intercepts, and integrated into the broader air defense network. The scale of this force has already changed the rhythm of the region's skies. Between 2022 and 2024, J-20s intercepted US and Allied jets, including F-35s, over the East China Sea on multiple occasions. Both sides confirm these encounters. Controlled, professional, but unmistakably tense. Each incident generates its own classified after-action review, with pilots and commanders dissecting every maneuver and radio call. People's Liberation Army Air Force leadership has described these face-offs as calm, measured, but with immense historic importance, shaping not just tactics, but the future of China's air doctrine. Public displays reinforce the message. J-20s take center stage at air shows and national parades, flying in tight formation above Beijing, or rolling past dignitaries on the tarmac. State media hails them as symbols of technological progress and national resolve. Yet, behind the pageantry lies a hard reality. Every new brigade, every coastal deployment, multiplies the strategic weight of any technical weakness. With hundreds of stealth fighters now forward-based and integrated into China's rapid response plans, even minor flaws or untested systems could have consequences far beyond the drawing board. The J-20 is no longer a prototype or a propaganda tool. It is the backbone of a new kind of air power, and its true capabilities will matter at a scale the world can no longer ignore. On paper, the J-20's technical sheet reads like a checklist for a world-class stealth fighter. Twin engines, super cruise, long range, and a weapons bay built for heavy payloads. But the real world is less forgiving than a brochure. The truth is, most of the 300-plus J-20s now flying patrols and standing alert across China's 5 theater commands still rely on the WS-10C engine, a product of decades of catch-up work, not a leap ahead. Each WS-10C produces about 142 to 147 kilonewtons of thrust, an improvement over the Russian engines it replaced, but still trailing the F-22's F-119, which delivers at least 155 kilonewtons per engine and a proven record of sustained supersonic flight. Chinese state media and official briefings have trumpeted the arrival of the WS-15, the so-called super engine designed to finally close the gap. Its target is up to 180 or even 190 kilonewtons of thrust, true supercruise, and thermal management that could support future directed energy weapons. In April 2023, party sources declared mass production underway. But open source tracking tells a different story. Satellite imagery, tailcode analysis, and exercise reports confirm only a handful of J-20S flying with the WS-15, mostly in prototype or early J-20A units. Most operational squadrons, especially those stationed in high-tempo theaters, still rely on the older WS-10C. The bottleneck is not ambition, it is reliability. There is no public data on how often WS-15-powered jets fly, what their maintenance cycles look like, or how many engines have been sidelined by test stand fires and teething issues. Western analysts and some Chinese technical insiders point to ongoing struggles with single crystal turbine blades and specialized cooling alloys. Export controls and supply chain hiccups have forced engineers to work around persistent quality gaps. The result is a high-profile engine that headlines air shows and parades, but remains unproven under the daily grind of combat sorties and rapid turn alerts. For now, the vast majority of J-20S in service are still capped by the limits of the WS-10C. That means lower thrust-to-weight ratios, less margin for high G maneuvers, and shorter supercruise endurance compared to the F-22. In a real-world intercept, these differences matter. Acceleration, climb rate, and the ability to sustain supersonic speeds without afterburners are not just numbers on a chart. They dictate who gets the first shot, who can disengage, and who survives if a fight drags out. Until the WS-15 proves itself not just in test flights, but in the relentless tempo of frontline operations, the J-20's promise remains partly theoretical. The jet's next challenge is not just stealth or sensors. It is whether its engines can deliver the performance needed when the stakes are highest. Stealth is the J-20's calling card, but its reputation for invisibility is more complicated than official slogans suggest. The jet's silhouette is dominated by a canard delta layout, diverterless intakes, and serrated panel edges, features meant to scatter radar waves and keep its frontal radar cross-section low. Against a head-on sweep from an enemy fire control radar, the J-20's signature is, by most open estimates, smaller than any Russian jet and well below that of legacy fourth-generation fighters. Yet the illusion of seamless stealth begins to unravel as soon as the J-20 turns. Side and rear aspects tell a different story. The same canards that help with high-altitude agility also act as radar reflectors at off-frontal angles. The airframe's large size and exposed engine nozzles, especially on earlier models, create strong radar returns from behind or the flanks. Western simulations and open-source measurements suggest the J-20's mean radar cross-section is several times larger than the F-35's when viewed from the side, and nowhere near the F-22's marble-sized signature. These are not minor technicalities. In a real-world intercept, a fleeting turn or a poorly timed maneuver can light up the J-20 on an enemy's scope, erasing the advantage promised by its nose-on profile. This vulnerability is not just theoretical. Indian Air Force officers have publicly claimed that their Su-30 MKI tracked J-20s at distance over Tibet, an outcome that would be nearly unthinkable if the Chinese jet matched the F-22's stealth. While Chinese sources contest these accounts, the episode highlights a core truth. Stealth is never absolute. It depends on aspect, frequency, and tactics, and the J-20's design choices come with trade-offs. The PLAAF knows this, and so do its adversaries. During training flights, ferry missions, and even air shows, J-20s are often spotted with Lundberg lenses, large, golf ball-like reflectors, bolted to their bellies or weapon bay doors. These devices deliberately inflate the jet's radar signature, making it visible to civilian and military air traffic control. The official reason is flight safety and training realism, but the side effect is more subtle. Every time a J-20 flies with a Lundberg lens, foreign radar operators get a baseline for what the jet looks like on their screens. Remove the lens, and the true stealth profile is masked, but the constant cycling between visible and invisible gives away patterns that enemy analysts can exploit. Parades and static displays add another layer of exposure. Each time a J-20 sits on a tarmac for foreign delegations or cameras, electromagnetic emissions and physical measurements leak out, tiny data points that, over time, help adversaries refine their detection algorithms. The more the J-20 is showcased, the less mysterious its stealth becomes. All of this means that the J-20's radar-evading edge, while real from the front, is conditional and eroding. Its canards and engine layout create persistent side and rear vulnerabilities, and the routine use of Lundberg lenses for training and display is a double-edged sword, protecting the jet's true signature in peacetime, but also giving rivals the clues they need to close the gap. In the world of fifth-generation air combat, the myth of perfect invisibility does not survive first contact with physics or with the relentless curiosity of foreign intelligence teams. Chinese media often tout the J-20 radar arrays as game changers, claiming their silicon carbide AESA arrays can spot stealth targets like the F-22 or F-35 at distances of 435 miles. But radar physics draws a hard line. No matter how many modules you pack into a nose cone, detecting a marble-sized radar cross-section at that range simply is not possible. Western analysts, including Dr. Justin Bronk at RUSY, note that while the J-20's sensors look impressive on paper, there is no open-source evidence the jet can fuse and share targeting data with the seamless reliability seen in U.S. fifth-generation fighters. The F-22 and F-35 have spent decades refining their sensor fusion software, stress testing it across real-world missions and coalition networks. The J-20's integration remains largely theoretical, exercised in peacetime drills, not in the chaos of actual combat. The J-20 designers have packed the jet's nose with a dense AESA radar and distributed infrared sensors, aiming to create a pilot's tactical picture that rivals the best in the world. But the real challenge is not just hardware. It is making sense of that flood of data under electronic attack, with jamming and decoys muddying the picture. US jets have proven their fusion under fire. For the J-20, no such track record exists. That uncertainty leaves a gap between the claims and what adversaries actually fear on the battlefield. Then there is the most controversial omission. The J-20 is the only frontline stealth fighter in the world without an internal gun. Open-source photos, parade footage, and Chinese defense publications confirm there is no cannon inside the airframe. This is not a forgotten feature, it is a deliberate bet. The design assumes that long-range missiles and sensors will always decide the fight, and that no J-20 pilot will ever need to close in for a dogfight. Dr. Michael Kaufman calls this a doctrinal gamble. If electronic warfare, bad luck, or a missed missile shot forces a merge, the J-20 becomes a large, underarmed target. The F-22, by contrast, carries a 6-barrel Vulcan cannon, a last line of defense if missiles fail. The J-20's gunless design is a wager on perfect detection and perfect shots, every time. In the real world, that is a risk no Western Air Force has been willing to take. No J-20 has ever fired a shot in anger. For all its scale, the world's second stealth Air Force has yet to face the chaos of real combat. Every missile launch, every radar lock, every kill claimed by the People's Liberation Army Air Force Mighty Dragon has happened inside the safety of exercises or staged intercepts, never in the unpredictable grind of a shooting war. United States F-35s and F-22s have logged live missions in Syria, Afghanistan, and the Pacific, feeding hard-won lessons back into their upgrades. The J-20's feedback loop is built on theory, simulation, and tightly controlled drills. No one outside the People's Liberation Army Air Force can say how its pilots or software will perform when the electronic warfare gets dirty, or when missiles miss and the only way out is a desperate maneuver. Instead, the future is being wagered on technology that is dazzling on paper but unproven in battle. The J-20S, the world's first twin-seat stealth fighter, has entered service not as a trainer but as a flying command post. The backseat is reserved for a mission director, meant to coordinate electronic warfare, sensor fusion, and the next generation of loyal wingman drones like the GJ-11. In theory, a single J-20S could quarterback a swarm of unmanned jets, jamming enemy radars and launching coordinated strikes while the pilot focuses on flying and weapons. The concept is bold, but it has never been tested under fire. The missile suite is just as ambitious. The PL-15 is already in service, but the real headlines belong to the PL-17 and the rumored PL-21. The PL-17 is said to reach 400 kilometers, a range designed to hunt down AWACS and tankers far from the front lines. The PL-21, if real, would push that envelope even further, possibly with ramjet or hypersonic propulsion. These are game-changing ideas on paper, but no pilot has ever launched a PL-17 or PL-21 at a live target. No drone swarm has ever blinded a hostile radar network in combat. Every claim, every chart, every parade flyby is a bet that these systems will work when the stakes are highest. The result is an Air Force that looks formidable, but lives in a world of untested possibilities. The J-20's future may belong to drone swarms and missile salvos fired from beyond the horizon. For now, though, it remains a paper dragon, its true power and its true risks still waiting for the crucible of real war. China's J-20 stands as a bold symbol, yet in 2024, its true combat edge remains untested. As Beijing fields more jets and the US refines proven stealth, the race shifts from air shows to real-world credibility. In future crises, unproven technology collides with hardened experience, The true balance of power will hinge not on promises, but on performance under fire.